constantly telling CEOs, CFOs, C-suite executive boards of directors, no amount of effective IR, PR, hard work, roll up your sleeves, knock it out of the park fundamentals can overcome an artificial and endless supply of stock, right? So if that supply is artificial, your borrow rate is going to be artificially low, which keeps the short selling game alive.
What's up, Mullen fans? Welcome back to the channel. Before you watch the main part of this video, be sure to grab you a cup of coffee, a Red Bull, some water, some snacks, because you will not want to miss the information in this video. You ever wonder why the borrow fee seems to stay the same for a year, even though we already know the shorts are continuously borrowing millions of shares on daily to short against the stock? You ever wonder why the company continues to put out good, positive news, best news at that at times, and the stock continues to crash down lower than before? As we continuously see that the self-reported data that they provide to us on these sites each and every day can be misconstrued and cause fear in investors. Not too long ago, Mullen had 1,000% cost to borrow on the stock. The stock's supposed to be expensive to borrow, yet the stock continuously gotten pushed down. We've seen 50 million plus failure to delivers on the company. We have today David Wenger with Share Intel, and he's going to provide a lot of answers to you all's questions, in my opinion. So stay tuned and let's get right into it.
Invited on David Wenger, founder and CEO of Share Intel. Since the start of 2023, I've started seeing more news releases saying ABCD company reports on ongoing investigation into potentially improper and illegal trading activity in the company's stock. This was a first for me, and a trend that I wanted to understand better. Is this the same fight as the AMC GameStop short squeeze that galvanized retail investors to fight back against Wall Street? If so, are select microcaps taking advantage of these same retail investors? The idea being that Wall Street is potentially illegally naked shorting our stocks to come join us in the fight. Or are there select microcaps utilizing tools like Share Intel to genuinely understand what is happening in their company's stock in order to do something about it, protect long-term shareholders, or perhaps stop the bleeding because they'll need to raise more growth capital, which will already be dilutive?
Well, let's start with this, okay? Naked short selling as opposed to illegal naked short selling. Let's make that distinction, because market makers have an exemption in order to maintain orderly markets that allow them in certain instances to be naked, okay? But illegal naked short selling is what all the hoopla is about these days, and not so much these days. It's been going on for years and years and years. The consensus amongst industry thought leaders, Wall Street experts, is that this is been taking place to a huge detriment of our capital markets, and there are lots of complex topics in and around why this is happening, why it continues, what the regulators are or not doing about it. But in its very simple terms, illegal naked short selling is an illegal naked short sale takes place when the broker dealer that is on the receiving end of a sell order, short sell order, does, and this is the most common form of what I see from where I sit, illegal naked short selling, where the broker in a fast market where trades are going off in gigaseconds, and they have a valued client, right? That they want to be sure and process that order because they're all competing for the same business. They all have valued clients. They are taking advantage of the rule, which states they have to have a reasonable belief, that good faith belief, they can locate those shares, okay, to borrow those shares and settle that transaction come settlement days. That trade gets done in a fast market to satisfy the relationship, and they hope by the end of the day that they're going to find those shares. Well, the end of the day comes and they don't find those shares. Maybe T+2 comes and they don't find those shares, and then so the first extension kicks in, and now they've got 14 days to find those shares. And And if they don't find those shares, well, guess what? That trade went off regardless. It now creates what's called an open fail to receive, open fail to deliver, settlement fail. And in reality, these settlement fails get pushed down the road. I don't want to get into how that's done. There's a multitude of ways, that IOU in effect is kept open. But suffice it to say that the money side of that transaction settled. The purchaser of those shares on the other end now can see that they own those shares on their statement. But in actuality, what has happened is it's created a phantom or a counterfeit share, which is often the term assigned in today's world. So our system, Share Intel, we've got a compliance-driven software as a service that essentially looks for the markers, okay, of these fails in what's referred to often as aged fails. Make sense?
Why is the discovery of a naked short really so important to the issuer? I mean, it sounds obvious even when I ask the question, but let's make it clear to those that are still kind of unclear as to what the nature of the relationship is right now.
Well, let's get back to that scenario, all right, where that trade was done. If there was not a share, right, a legitimate share to borrow, if it wasn't located properly, then what you have in effect is an artificial supply, right? So in that scenario where there's an artificial supply, and I'm constantly telling CEOs, CFOs, C-suite executive boards of directors, no amount of effective IR, PR, hard work, roll up your sleeves, knock it out of the park fundamentals can overcome an artificial and endless supply of stock, right? So if that supply is artificial, your borrow rate is going to be artificially low, which keeps the short selling game alive, right? So it's meaningful for all of those reasons, not the least of which is it's dilutive, right? So it's dilutive. It's creating artificial pressure on your stock, thwarting the ability to create true price discovery, and that's where we can help. When you have companies releasing, the best news they've released in a year, okay, and it's the moment they've been waiting for, and they're all excited to release this news. They release the news, stock runs for a minute in time, and then all of a sudden by the end of the trading session, it's traded 10 times their float, which is almost impossible, and the stock closes lower. Okay, so where did all that selling come from in the face of best news the company's ever put out? That's what starts to raise eyebrows. Intuitively, a guy who's worked his whole life to get where he is and make this news announcement says, "What's wrong? Something's broken," and that's where we're brought in. Well, if you're a long-term investor, then obviously you have some belief in either the underlying technology, the service, whatever we're talking about here, the fundamentals, the ability of the fundamentals to unfold and develop, and you're betting on management to some meaningful degree as well. What you're not betting on is this this abusive and predatory behavior that comes out of the Wall Street community, either from the hedge funds or those brokers that are facilitating the hedge fund business. And all of this predatory behavior obviously impacts these smaller companies who always have to be concerned about their cost of capital, because if they have to keep going back to the banker, back to the market, and raising money at lower and lower valuations, then that's disconcerting for everybody concerned. So it ultimately serves the short seller, in particular the illegal short seller, because at some point they're counting on investors becoming dismayed and disillusioned and saying, I'm just going to abandon this because it's just too far gone. So,
and what usually happens after the naked shorts and the shorters are exposed, in your opinion, or from what you see?
Well, if we're out there helping companies one at a time. So if we can help companies, sort of get their particular situation squared away, force the naked short sellers to focus on. There's thousands of other companies to go pick on out there. Let's help them go pick on another one and leave ours alone. That's really where we're coming from right now. I will tell you that years ago I approached the SEC, with the idea that we should be part of a macro solution to this problem. I still believe we are to this day, and we're working with some very high-level industry thought leader types to actually sort of walk some of our recommended solutions into the hallways of Congress at this stage, because we don't feel, a lot of these industry thought leaders don't feel like that this is ever going to get solved by the regulators until there's an act of Congress, some legislation in place.
I mean, is there anything that a company can legally do if they've uncovered that there is some illegal naked shorting happening? Is there any recourse that they have?
It hasn't been necessarily successful for many of these companies to approach the regulators. I know that's counterintuitive, but it's what I've witnessed. It can actually backfire. The company can actually shoot itself in the foot and invite an investigation on the company itself. So we've worked. I know it's insidious.
I was gonna say, like, what's stopping the shorters from, like, okay, cool, you announced that you hired Share Intel, great, like, bring it on.
Yeah. Well, at the end of the day, okay, I mentioned earlier in the conversation, earlier in the interview, we work with the top attorney in the space, okay, and he's not shy about prosecuting these cases. And increasingly, you're seeing a lot of awareness now, as I mentioned earlier, from this CEO roundtable that's formed. A lot of whom have hired Wes and Share Intel and another individual, actually also Tom Ronk of Buy-ins.net. They're serious about going after this, and I think Wes has the ability to make people wake up and pay attention, and I think at the end of the day, if companies gather the evidence, if you will, at least put themselves in a position where maybe in lockstep, maybe in a class action, whatever resources need to be deployed. I know Wes takes a lot of his cases on contingency. That's another conversation for you and he, if you're not going to arrange that, if you like. But the reality of the matter is, you got to get in the fight. These companies have to get in the fight.
Go. Blessed in abundance. Look who raised from the dungeon.